News. I just want to follow up on Tanda's question. So, you say that the government has the tools to compel these documents, and you say if it's necessary, you will. Well, how come now is not necessary? What are you waiting for?
Obviously, and I'm not going to get into the details of what tools and what processes and what documents. Let me talk about the basic principles. We have committed as a country to revealing the truth, to sharing the truth, to allowing access to the truth, first and foremost, so communities can understand what happened to their loved ones and grieve them and mourn them and perhaps bring them home. These are the things that are most important for Canadians and for Canada right now. And our role in ensuring that that happens is one that we take very seriously, and we will be there to ensure that the truth is known. Now, before we have to start taking the Catholic Church to court, I am very hopeful that religious leaders will understand that this is something they need to participate in and not hide from, that forgiveness and redemption is a path we all are told we should be walking on through our faith. And I am confident that the Catholic Church is hearing these calls very clearly and is understanding the kind of dismay and grief that many Canadians are feeling right now at seeing the continued lack of action.
David Aiken, Global News. Good afternoon, Prime Minister. So you did a little stock taking in your opening remarks about the TRC calls to action, drinking water advisories. I'd like to do a little stock taking for this week. On Monday, you said you would directly speak to Ministers Bennett, Lametti, Vandal, Miller, and you promised concrete action. 2 days later, Minister Bennett sort of opened the wicket up and said, come apply for money. So is that it for the concrete action? Is there more concrete action that will be coming on the residential schools, et cetera?
Yes, there is much more action to come. There is much more work to be done. As I referred to on Monday, we talked about the fact that we set aside over $30 million for exactly this. Had been working with communities around ways to flow that money, but that has been accelerated significantly this week, and families and communities can move forward. And let me be very, very clear that we will be there with whatever supports are necessary for communities and Indigenous leadership to move forward in the way that is appropriate for their community. It's not up to the federal government to dictate this, that, or the other thing. It's not up to international bodies to choose to come in, although they would be welcome. It is about Indigenous communities having the tools that they need to move forward. It's not up to the federal government to decide what those tools are either. But we will be there and are now engaged in direct conversations with communities that are stunned and shocked and grieving and hurting because of the recent news. And want to move forward in a way that is supporting their families, their elders, their community in the right way. And we as a government will be there concretely with action and resources as they need to for moving forward.
CBC, I'd like to ask you about the past and the present day. You're going to be speaking to Ryerson students this afternoon, and I'm wondering if the events of the past week have made you reconsider the idea of honoring people like Egerton Ryerson, like Sir John A. Macdonald, who this building is named after, whether you think that's still appropriate. And on the present day, after the release of your National Action Plan yesterday, Marion Buller, the commissioner of the MMIWG report, came out and said she was disappointed, and she doesn't see why an Indigenous person would trust the government on this issue. So all your words about reconciliation, why do you think it is that so many Indigenous people, or some Indigenous people, don't trust your government or you?
First of all, on the Sir John A. Macdonald building that we're in right now on Ryerson University, where I will be speaking later today. There are lots of really important conversations to have, and I think we need to have them as Canadians who grapple with a past that is not just a historical past, but a past that has impacts on the present right now. I think there are serious and mature conversations we need to have, and I can't dictate whether it's appropriate for this place or that place to carry this name or that name. But I think being eyes wide open about what we choose to honor and commemorate, I think we always need to know, we always need to retain awareness of the past, but awareness that is nuanced and informed and understanding. And the decisions on who we commemorate and how we commemorate them are decisions that we have to take through careful reflection and open and difficult conversations in our communities and in our society. In regards to why there are Indigenous leaders and communities and individuals who continue to mistrust government, I think it's obvious why. The level to which the institutions, Parliament, Prime Ministers have let down Indigenous peoples over the past decades, generations, and centuries is well documented. That's why there's nothing I can say that's suddenly going to make everything all right. That's why the work of reconciliation is hard. And it involves more than just a government. It involves Canadians. It involves organizations and orders of government. It involves individual choices and collective choices. And most of all, it involves action. Action that's going to rebuild trust step by step. And for every boil water advisory we end, for every school we open, for every of the hundreds of thousands of Jordan's principal requests we grant, there's still more to do. And there's still people who continue to be suffering the legacy of colonialism that Canada has laid forward. I don't begrudge anyone their grief, their skepticism, their impatience, because I feel that impatience too. But the hurts and the wrongs, the intergenerational trauma, the layers of barriers and harms that continue to this day, not as part of our past, but as part of our present, require an awful lot of work by all of us. And this government has been and continues to be very serious about moving forward, and moving forward in a way that is in partnership and informed by the work that we're doing together and by Indigenous leadership itself. And as we move forward on the pathways that we announced yesterday in the National Action Plan to end the ongoing tragedy of missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls, as we look at strengthening community security, as we move to reforming the justice system, as we look to healing and mental health supports, as we look to education, and all the different things that we can and must be doing together, there will be some people who continue to sit back and say it's not enough, and that is their right. But there are others who are taking chances and stepping forward and participating and helping us make sure that we get things right. I'm not going to begrudge anyone the choices they make. But I am going to thank those people who, despite all the hurt, despite all the trauma, despite all the mistrust, continue to believe that working together, that moving forward on these solutions is the only path not just for reconciliation, but for Canada.